Do you need help detoxing from a toxic partnership? If so, this video is for you. We enjoy tackling important topics every week, and we hope that you will take a quick moment to support our efforts by subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell for notifications. Thank you so much for tuning in to LilyTube.
You know, the subject we're about to discuss came by way of a special request from a member of our Love in Later Years family, and we thought it was a great idea. We even consulted with some of our coaching clients who have been in the process of detoxing from toxic partnerships to get their insight on this subject, and their wisdom is scattered throughout this video. I want to say, however, at the beginning, we need to be really careful discussing this topic about diagnosing our partners. My former partner was a gaslighting narcissist, or something like that. And we need to be really sure that we're not the toxic one or a toxic one in our own relationships. I think it is often tempting when we've been in a relationship that hasn't worked to think of the other person as toxic. I would have been fine, but my partner was toxic. Be really careful not to do that.
Well, and the reason why we titled this Toxic Partnership is what we're detoxing from. It allows us to see what could possibly be my part in the toxic interaction.
Right.
And that's part of what we're detoxing from as well.
Absolutely.
When it comes to making the decision to end an intimate relationship, it is important not to make any assumptions about another person changing, but to radically accept them as they are. Whether that means staying in the relationship and adjusting your expectations, or leaving if it's not possible for that relationship to be good for you. If you are currently in a marriage and weighing your options, we encourage you to listen to LilyPod episode 35, The Divorce Decision, to learn about Jeff's suggested 3-step process for deciding if divorce is best in your case.
Once you've made a decision, give yourself a little space so you can return to yourself and find peace. You want to do those kinds of things that feed your soul, whatever that means to you. Recharge your battery, and that could be exercise, being out in nature, cleansing with water, a hot bath or something, meditation, whatever floats your boat. Take the opportunity to do some self-care and fill up your emotional bucket with a healthy dose of self-love and compassion. Commit to keeping that full and only giving the overflow to others.
I love that concept. It's kind of a new concept to me, but filling up our emotional bucket and then giving from the overflow.
Exactly, I love it too. And one of the things I want to make sure we're clear on is sometimes filling our emotional bucket can mean calling a friend, inviting them to go to dinner or do some other activity with us. When we talk about self-care and self-compassion, we're not necessarily talking about isolation.
Right, sometimes it can be with other people, sometimes it can be by ourselves, whatever fills us personally best.
And have enough people in your life that you're not overburdening any one person if you're in a tough spot, but you have plenty of people you can reach out to and help to meet those needs that you may have. And that way you're taking responsibility for your own issue, even if part of the way you're handling it is to reach out to others.
For those with an obliger tendency, take time to recover from compassion fatigue. If you are constantly overgiving, overserving, and you're just completely worn out, this is a good opportunity when you end an intimate relationship that might have had that dynamic in it, where you were over-functioning, to give yourself a break. And for those with a co-dependent dynamic, which I personally had when I was first divorced, make a firm commitment not to get into another relationship until you've been on your own long enough to unwind that codependent wiring and heal from your previous loss as much as you possibly can.
If you were in a really codependent relationship and you got your self-image, your self-esteem from the things you were doing for your partner, it's tempting to listen to a lot of the talk in our Latter-day Saints subculture where we hear, if you're in a bad mood, go out and serve somebody else. And that's kind of the go-to response for anything. Well, if you're having a hard time, be more selfless. And sometimes that can help. But I want you to be really judicious and careful about not overdoing that, not enabling other people to underfunction and not taking on so much that, as it says in the Book of Mormon, it is not meet that a man should run faster than he has strength. And we can tend to do that if we have those tendencies to have imbalances in our relationship and believe that we have to do everything the way the other person wants us to in order to maintain our value in the relationship.
You know, I really appreciate that you said that, because for those with an obliging tendency and with codependent wiring, it can be very tempting to believe that our worth is in our doing. If we have that compassion fatigue that I was talking about, you're not going to recover from that by going out and serving and doing more. Sometimes we really need a rest so that we can fill that emotional bucket, commit to keep it full, and then we have the ability to give from a place of abundance.
Remember, friends, you're a human being, not a human doing.
Learn how to be happy on your own. Rely on supportive, platonic friends. To work on breaking free of codependent tendencies, watch our video on overcoming codependent relationships. And get professional help from a qualified therapist, from religious leaders you trust, or from life coaches like us. We would be happy to help you individually if you are feeling stuck and could use some assistance with detoxing from toxic relationship patterns.
You know, Cathy, people that are dealing with detoxing from a difficult relationship probably need to tell their stories with friends and others and work through those feelings. Trying to stuff those emotions, to shove them down, is only going to make them come out sideways. And it's going to be an unpredictable and kind of ugly response. So, friends, don't stay stuck in your stories, in the stories that are causing you pain. Be willing to work through them verbally with others. But also, as you work through with them, be ready to let those stories go, to adopt a more supportive interpretation. Don't stay stuck in stories that are going to instead perpetuate toxic relationships or toxic feelings.
Well, and I'd like to just insert here that the law of attraction states what we put our focus on, we get more of. So whatever stories have us focusing on toxic relationships will perpetuate toxic interactions.
Right, it's one thing to get out of a toxic relationship, and it's another thing to get that toxic relationship out of you. So allow yourself to gradually adopt new perspectives that interpret the past in a more supportive and empowering way. For example, instead of thinking, my ex-wife ruined my life and broke my heart, you could choose the thought that my losses are making space for more happiness and better things than before.
I love that. I mean, the only reason sacrifice is ever a good thing is if it's making room for something better.
Right.
When we've sacrificed a relationship, then what we want to believe in is a better one in our future. And we've effectively made space for that. You know, another thing about detoxing from toxic relationships is to recognize the power we have to choose and say no. Honor your no. And avoid the temptation to be manipulated when you've already made a decision. If you decide to end a relationship and you know that is right for you, stick with it. Allow people outside the toxic partnership to support you. Create a situation, if at all possible, that will allow a 30-day no contact policy after a breakup in order to release all the love chemicals and get clearer about your own future.
Right, sometimes taking a break from that other person, if we have kind of addictive tendencies toward the other people in our life, we need to be able to take that space and set some boundaries and allow us to just kind of settle.
Well, and even if we don't have those tendencies, which a lot of us do, we get attached to our partners, there's still a lot of strength that comes from having that 30 days to yourself, to come back to yourself and to self-soothe and to not have that interaction there clouding your mind and your judgment.
When you do decide to start dating again, be willing to endure some discomfort with what and who is truly good for you. Why? Well, for one thing, we attract opposite extremes. If I'm hypervigilant, I might attract someone who's irresponsible.
We suggest becoming as balanced as possible in all aspects of your life if you don't want to attract an opposite extreme.
Right. We tend often to attract what we're used to as well. So if you're used to overfunctioning in a relationship and you have a partner that's used to underfunctioning, when you come together, it's a perfect storm and you're going to recreate what you've had before.
Right. Well, and in previous relationships and in families of origin, that's where a lot of what we attract, what we're used to seeing.
Right. We become habituated to those situations, and they feel comfortable even if they're not pleasant, even if they're unhealthy.
Another thing we can attract into our lives is the opposite of what we don't want through what we fear, and that is not always a good thing. So, I was once in a relationship that had some dishonesty in it, and so I was looking for someone who was really honest. And then I ended up attracting into my life someone who was so honest, they were verbally abusive. And that's not what I really wanted, obviously. But it was the opposite of what I didn't want, and it didn't end up being good for me.
In one relationship, I had a partner that was stonewalling, that I could never talk about anything really sensitive in the relationship because she would switch off. And in a subsequent relationship, I was so focused on finding someone that wasn't stonewalling that instead I found someone that was possessed with rage and often really, really angry. And so I got the opposite of the relationship I had before, which wasn't a good thing.
In both of these cases, we got the opposite of what we didn't want, and it wasn't at all what we really wanted.
When you are emotionally healthy, you're more likely to attract what you are. So focus on being what you want to attract and being balanced in it, being healthy, happy, lacking excessive amounts of relationship stress or pressure.
I've had coaching clients who I've helped reframe all the things they don't want into what they do want. And I would love to help you do that. Jeff and I can both help you do that if you want to come see us and help us coach you through it. You also can do this at home by writing down on a piece of paper all the things that you don't want from a previous relationship, and then on the other side, finding the opposite of those things. The positive traits, the positive words, all the feel-goods, the things that will raise the vibration of your thoughts from all those icky things you don't want to all the beautiful, wonderful, awesome things that you do want. And that's what we want you to focus on.
When you've been focused on a toxic partnership, chances are good that your own feelings have become a little poisoned, and you may be dealing with a lot of negative thoughts and feelings. And that's a place where a really good coach can come in and help you straighten all that out and figure out how to get you thinking in a direction that's more hopeful, realistic, and optimistic. And that's what we can do to help you.
Absolutely. Are you detoxing from a toxic partnership? Let us know what has helped you in the comments. And remember that any time is a great time for more love, especially self-love and support in your life.
Thank you for watching.